Warning. The following contains spoilers. Please be advised. Okay, so I guess moment of silence for our forgotten red guys.
But what are the red guys?
It's an interesting question. I think I still don't know exactly.
Super hot, 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 super hot.
And welcome to the second annual monthly Game Club podcast at the Buffalo Game Space. I'm your host, Pat Kesterson.
I'm Chris Langford.
Oh.
John Futcher.
All right. And today we are discussing SUPERHOT.
Super hot.
Super.
So I'm just gonna get right out in front of that immediately. That was really freaking annoying.
It got to after a while. Yeah.
It was.
So I started the game up. I got like 2 missions in, and I'm like, this is pretty fun. And I talked to Greg about it, and he's like, oh my god, that's super hot. It gets so annoying. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. And then, I got to like 10 minutes later in the
You're like,
campaign.
I'm done.
No, this is annoying. It's dumb.
Well,
Especially because I just want to watch the replay.
Right, 100. Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
right. Like if it did that when you beat the level, like a couple of times, like it said it, but it says it over and over again for the entirety of the replay. Like even if it took you a minute to beat that level, it says super hot over and over again. I quickly learned that if you go to edit the replay, which is a really cool thing that they added because they really wanted to help people share the playthroughs
On
that they did.
Killstagram.
If you go to edit it, it doesn't play that sound, and you can still see the video.
It still plays it through.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
so you hit like F4 or something like that when you beat a level, and it goes into edit mode, and then you can watch it without being accosted by the game's name over again.
I just wish that you didn't have to hit another button because that game especially is pretty much just bam, 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 bam.
And you can jump through that. Like you don't have to hear him say super hot or watch the replay. You could jump right
yeah,
to
you
the
can
next
just
level.
hit right for it.
So we should probably set the stage a little bit more. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what the hell we're talking about?
All right, so we are talking about SUPERHOT, which was, let's see here, it came out on, if I can read, the May 3rd, 2016.
Yep.
On the Xbox One.
On Xbox.
And then on PC was
Feb 25.
worldwide, February 25 on 2016. So this game is getting close to a year old now, at least on PC.
Yeah.
I didn't know they even actually put it out on Windows. I know they were talking about it, but
It makes sense. It's such a simple game. There's no reason you couldn't port it to anything, really.
Well, the game was built in Unity, and I don't know when you want to start talking about the history of it, but it started as
we
a
can
jam game.
go for it right now. I
Yeah.
mean, just like it was a jam game. I don't know how long it took for them to actually make it after
7
2013.
days.
So yeah.
Well,
so,
no, 2013 is when they actually made it
Right.
Right.
on here.
So I was going to talk about this a little bit earlier before we started, and I figured I'd save it for the podcast. But, this was, it started as a project for 7-day first-person shooter. And the only reason I remember that is because it was the one time I participated in 7-day first-person shooter.
I think I did that same one.
Yeah,
It was the winter one, right?
Yep.
Or,
Yeah.
or was it the summer one? It was the winter one.
It was the winter one, yeah. It was
Yeah.
one of the first ones they ran, I think.
Yeah, and I remember I did the same. I did it as well, and I didn't make super hot.
Yeah. I definitely finished that week out, and I had built a little, I had a little first-person player character controller. You could run around and shoot capsules, and you could pick up different weapon types, and I was super proud of that. And then I started going through all the other submissions, and there's this other one, that, time moves when you do, and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting, and then I played it. And my game sucks, and their game turned into this. It was,
This is definitely like the dream for a game jam. You make a game, or at least like a basic build, you see there's potential, and then eventually you release it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the key thing with jams is like to try out a different idea. It's like they were like, what would happen if time only moved when you did? And they said like in typical jam and working with a team fashion, like at multiple points through the jam, they're like, I don't know about this mechanic. I think we should just like make it where you run and you shoot the guys or whatever. And like, no, like this is the mechanic. Like the pillar is this one thing. Everything else needs to come out of that. And so they stuck to their guns, no pun intended, and they basically, what they came out with was actually a web build. In the old Unity web player scenario, they actually made a web build, and just posted it up on a site for free, and like it got a lot of traction online where people are just like sharing this link to this game because they built out a number of levels. It looks nothing like what is out now, but I played through it.
It looks close.
It looks close enough that like they had their
Art style wise, it's the exact same. The
No.
definition?
No.
Yeah.
no.
It's
The
I mean, you
the
have
mechanic in the room layout is very similar. The way they set up interactions, but the art style got a major overhaul. That probably took half their time of dev time was coming up with a new aesthetic.
Yeah.
And like
because the if I remember correctly, the original Jam build, like it was similar in that you shot red guys in white environments, but
Right.
the final release of this game actually has a surprisingly large amount of detail, like
Right.
and thought put into
Well,
it.
in that case, like art style wise, what I mean like is the white room, the Apple Store with a whole bunch of red guys running around.
yeah,
in
and
it.
then that art style of using red and black to like highlight
Highly
things.
contrasting things.
To call them out against the thing. But if you go back, the original web player version was really flat, like really flat colors. It was just like a flat red. Even like you couldn't even see like depth almost even in the 3D guys because they were like flat shaded with just like a basic light, like super basic Jam style. Just like there's no details. There's no crazy
It's just
VR
flat, yeah.
shader like they have on everything now, where they ran everything and made it like flat polys, and like you can actually see like kind of that crystalline layout.
It does.
When you shot them, they just broke apart, but it was all just like like a flat color, no details. This new version, the final version, is like full on. I don't want to say like it's not Call of Duty level detailed, but they put a lot of care into like the tables and the chairs and the corner. There's a lot of ambient occlusion. There's a lot of like highlighting architecture and angles and like lighting. They do a lot of things to kind of call out shapes of objects, because in the original version, since everything was like flat lit, if you were like behind like a bar table and it almost looked the same as the floor that was farther behind it, you had almost no depth perception really, because it was all way too flat. And they went really hard on trying to like making that even more crisp and delineated, and it kind of fell into this totally different polygonal art style they ended up with.
Yeah, so after it got to the web build that everybody saw, they made a Kickstarter, and that's what actually made the game. I kind of like usually I don't want to spend too much time on like the background, but for this particular game, that's part of the game.
Yeah, really.
The
I mean,
story
the
to
team kind of came together around this jam, and the successful Kickstarter basically was them founding their company.
Yeah, called
Like
Super
the
Hot
Super
Team.
Hot team, the Super Hot team was founded because they raised money on Kickstarter. Like if they never had that funding, it would have just sat there as a jam game. They would have just done other stuff.
It would have been a neat little experiment, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I like to think that the amount of, like you said, the amount of traction that the Jam build got was really impressive, like to the point at which there was major media outlets talking about it. And I mean, it's a Jam game. So I would imagine that if they hadn't run the Kickstarter, there still would have been a bigger version of this game. It just would have been, the guys that made it would have been bought out by some other developer.
Yeah, possibly,
and-
but they could have. This allowed that funding allowed them to form the team and
Absolutely.
work on it
Themselves.
full time.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas, like, what more often than not happens is that just to make ends meet, like, even if the guys really believed in the idea and everything, they could have easily just been snapped up and separated. Like, they
Right.
could all they could have gotten like. They're like, you guys made a really great thing. We want you to work here, but they hired like their lead programmer, and then like the lead artist gets a job at a different company, and,
Right.
like the lead designer gets a job at a different company, and Superhot never gets made. Maybe
Yeah.
they make something similar at their respective spots, but it wouldn't be what we ended up with.
Right.
Yeah, once again, this is the dream, at least from my perspective of a game jam.
And whether you want to count the dollars in success or not, I mean, we've seen it several times, just even around the local community of games that started as a jam game and ended up on major platforms and whatnot. After you put 2 years of polish in it. But yeah, I guess to bring it back to what the hell we're actually talking about, like the game is real. It has that one pillar, and I don't know if respect is the right word, but I really appreciate the fact that they kind of got their one pillar and they really did stick with it. And one of the things, before I get into that, basically, time only moves when you do. It allows you to do like Matrix style, like kind of shootout with other enemies. Everything's kind of very flat and clear, and it could take you like a minute or two to like think your way through a level. but then it plays it back in real time with like no slowing down, and it makes you look like a super badass. Like you're just like grabbing guns out of the air and throwing knives across the scene and like perfectly lining up headshots. Whereas when you actually played it, it took a minute to like line everything up. And
it's an action movie simulator.
It doesn't go crazy above and beyond though. Like if you watch some of the replays, they almost even play some of them. At least mine, some of them played kind of generic. It was just like, yeah, it just looks like I ran through and shot everybody. Like I could have done it without the slow mo.
It's funny that the replays, if you only saw those, you'd think, oh, this is just kind of like a whatever first person shooter. I mean, they're a dime a dozen now, but the actual gameplay mechanics turn it into more of a puzzle game.
Oh,
it's
totally.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how I describe it to people now.
Yeah, it's a puzzle shooter. Like it's really, you got to figure out the order of what you're gonna do. How do you interact with the enemies?
What weapon
happens?
are you gonna get?
What weapon are you gonna get? How do you use the weapons? Because one of the things that I learned pretty early on in the game is that a gun is great because you can kill an enemy, but anything you can throw is like super powerful. Like and is totally useful. Like somebody might be coming at you with an assault rifle, but if you have like a flower, you could throw it at them and hit them and make them drop their gun and pull the gun out of the air and then kill everybody around them. Like, and also even like sometimes trying to shoot an enemy with your gun wasn't the best move because the throw is instant. When you shoot the gun, and actually I thought this was you can see it on screen right now, but I thought this was a really cool piece of polish in the game was whenever you shoot a gun, it twists your crosshairs. And since the game only moves since time only moves when you move, as you move, it twists the crosshairs back to center as the next round is being chambered. So like certain guns have like a fire rate, right? Like you can only shoot the pistol so fast. Just because the time is slow doesn't mean you can just like fire off 5 shots in like a split second. Like it still takes like a split second for it to like chamber the next round, and then you can fire it. And it allows you to kind of plan your thing out. So when you shoot it with the pistol, you'll see the crosshairs go kind of cockeyed. And then when you move a little bit, they rotate back to center. When the next round is ready to fire, it flickers open, and then you can shoot again. And like it allows you to kind of plan out when you can shoot. Now, sometimes you'll shoot somebody, and it's cockeyed, and it's a lot of time, like literally it's only like half a second, but in this game, that amount of time is huge. You have to like move out of the way and try to get out of the way, and it's trying to get back to get the next shot off, and it's not enough time. And the actual right move is to shoot somebody, turn and instantly throw the gun, even though it still has bullets left in it, at somebody else to kind of to stun them and close the distance, and then take whatever they were using.
Yeah, I was going to say to clarify, when you throw an item and you hit one of these red guys, if they're carrying a gun, it will stun them, and then they let go of whatever they're carrying, and their gun is automatically like loaded and ready to fire. So it'll kind of get thrown in your direction. So if you hit them, you can just kind of grab it and shoot, and sometimes it's faster than waiting for that next round to chamber.
Yeah, and they all conviently usually kind of fly towards you.
Very convenient.
Very conveniently.
That guy just did literally what you just said.
Well, it's such a strategy that there's certain levels in the game where basically
see the cockeyed thing. He wasn't ready, so he had to throw it. He had another shot, but he had to throw his gun so he didn't die.
The actual
sword. The sword is the shit too.
Oh yeah,
the sword was great.
They did a really good job with defining the visual language in this, where red is the enemy, white is the environment, and black are the objects you can interact with. So there are certain levels that are built around this throwing mechanic almost entirely, because when you start, you're dropped into a room, and you don't have a gun, but you're surrounded by millions of just objects you can pick up off of tables and throw at guys. And so it immediately makes it where you have to pick an item, and then you have to pick an enemy, and then based on what weapon they're carrying, you might prioritize which enemy you throw it at to get that weapon to then use to take out this guy or that guy.
No, it's definitely a murder puzzle.
But is it though? Because it's just red guys.
All right, now we're moving on to the story section. So the beauty
there is no plot. It's just killing red guys.
But there is plot, supposedly. Now, the one cool thing that I do like about this game is that we've pretty much discussed the entirety of the gameplay. There's just variances on that, and it's super polished. But at the end of the day, like that was pretty much it. Unless you guys can think of something.
No, and I think that is the focus of the game, but they do a good job of containing it in a length that's appropriate for that.
Yeah,
simple mechanic.
Before you start getting bored of it.
Yeah.
And
so I was actually surprised how short it was. Like it wasn't even like bored of it. It was like, oh, it's over now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they really you know, they had 2 years and so many configurations to go through that I almost feel like the game could have easily been twice as long, like 3 times as long, 4 times as long. They could have put that out. It would have been a very different thing. And I feel like I don't know if restraint is the word to use, where it's like, you know, they had so many other rooms and cool experiences that they could have put in like the main plot line, and they really just cherry picked like 20 of them,
Yeah,
like
there's only,
if that,
yeah.
like that's about the length of the main story. Now after that, you unlock like infinite modes and like other challenges and stuff. But
I definitely feel that, and this ties in with sticking with that one, you know, that mantra of like, you know, time moves when you do. This is it. You shoot red guys. Like, that's on a mechanics level. That's what the game is. I think that they were intentionally trying to avoid bloat in the mechanics as well as the story. So I think that, yeah, they could have done way more, but it's better to have like a super small, tight, polished set of levels than like a million things just because length is important.
Right.
Not
I guess.
really.
Well, no, that's what I'm getting at. Is like, I feel like as a team, they easily could have done that. I'm not saying they should have at all. Like, I'm actually applauding them for their restraint from being like, we could put another level in, and somebody's like, no, pull it back. Like, it just the things that are good. Like, how different is it from the one before? Not enough. Take it out. Like, they really trimmed it down to like, these are the 20. Like, these are the 20 we're going to give people. We could give them 200 easy. You know, they could. The game has the mechanic is almost built for almost infinite like scenarios.
Right.
Like, you could just keep building puzzles all day. As long as it has a solution, you could just keep putting them in. And they really are just like, all right, now you're in a helicopter. We're not doing that again. All right, now you're on a subway. Like, and then they don't do that again. They don't like beat you to death with the same thing over and over again. It's all quick and different, and they move on. And like, I'm going to keep using the word restraint because I feel like anybody in that room could have easily just been like, dude, we should just give them all the stuff. It'll be 10 hours long. They're like, no, like that's cruft. Like, we don't need it. Like, just focus on what we need. And I think the main port story is stronger for it because I actually was able to get through it because it wasn't super long.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to have like all these different experiences and move on.
This is a game to me that you are supposed to play in one go. I really feel
Except for the point where it actually makes you stop playing.
Oh, yeah. Or if you're like me and then you immediately reboot it right back.
Yeah.
But like
I actually did stop playing when that happened.
And you were like, I'll never touch it again.
No, I considered it for a second. I'm like, wouldn't that be cool? And then like an hour later, I turned it back
I definitely,
on.
when I hit that point in the story, I stopped, I closed it out because you have to. And then I was like, is this like a Metal Gear Solid thing? Like, I come back in 2 weeks and like I beat the thing? And then I was like, I just booted it back.
Yeah, no, I had that same thought.
That's
I was
pretty
like,
much everybody.
I was like,
in
I
the
wonder
world.
if I would get like an achievement for like never playing this again and like staying out of it. I mean, we're doing the game club is about like what, so we can't really worry about spoilers. We're just talking about like what it does. And so there's a point in the game where it straight up tells you like stop playing the game, like don't come back and stay out, and it like locks you out of the game. And there's nothing you can do but quit. It actually forces it, like, it hard locks the game until you quit the game and turn it off. You can't advance. So it actually makes you like quit the EXE SUPERHOT and leave the game and then reload it from Steam or wherever you're playing it from.
It felt very put the controller in the player 2 slot.
Yeah.
And like I even though it was the only time they used that gimmick in the whole game, I really enjoyed it because I feel that not enough games do that sort of stuff.
No, I
Make
agree.
it meta.
I agree. Like, I don't know why I have like short-lived aversion to like, really, you're making me do this, and I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool, I guess. Fine, sure. And then I was to the point like, well, maybe I'll go with this, and then I fired it up again like an hour later. But yeah, the game really plays with the ideas of like control and like, I mean, that's kind of the plot in the game is kind of. I don't even know. I feel like it's kind of art housey in the sense that they go out of their way to not give you any direct answers. They're just kind of like, we're doing this weird stuff. Make of it what you will.
Okay.
But you could tell it was carefully put together. Like they clearly thought it out. It's just but I feel like it's also like purposefully vague too much, and it should just fucking calm down a little bit on that.
I think that, and this might stem from when they were building out as a jam game, I definitely got the vibe they kind of took the John Carmack approach. He's got this great quote, stories in video games is like a story in porno. It's there because you expect it, but you don't really need it. And while that's not true for every game at all, for a game like SUPERHOT, you don't really need the story. But the fact that it's there is kind of nice.
So to that end, the way that they tell the story is like the game mechanic itself of like moving time and shooting the red guys. There's no storytelling in that at all. and all the story is conveyed to you through this weird kind of like semi-DOS CRT interface.
It's like a pseudo UI
right.
OS.
It starts with you like having a chat with a buddy who gives you like a cracked version of this game, and you play it, and then you get booted out, and then you get like the updated version, and you miraculously get some weird password to play the next level, and then it starts kind of fucking with you. Like after that, you go to tell your buddy like what the hell's going on, and you type in something, and whatever you type, it like replaces whatever you typed to your friend with something else. Like somebody else starts controlling what you're saying, and you're kind of like, wait, what's going on? And then you play some more levels, and then it starts.
The game
starts basically talking to you, saying like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, why are you meddling with these things that you don't understand? And you need to stop playing this game, and we know who you are, and like they're showing you pictures of yourself playing the game from the outside, and like we know where you live.
That was a cool part.
And like, so it starts kind of playing with those ideas, and it's a fairly well-trodden path in video games at this point. Like, this is not the first game to toy with the ideas of, control in a video game, and you kind of have to do what you're told because the game won't advance otherwise.
I definitely recall getting about halfway through, and we talked about it a bit in the past, like when I was at that point, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like they're just ripping off Hotline Miami. And when I got through it, I didn't feel the same way, but it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, and they even have like almost like the BioShocky, like,
would
you kindly shoot yourself in the head?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even in those little chat things, they call it out, or it's like, so what do you think of this story? And your character responds like, there is no plot. It's only killing red guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when the game kind of detects you playing it, or like the AI that's behind the game, or whatever you want to call it, is kind of like,
are you sure?
It plays it back to you like, there's no plot. You're just killing red guys. Like, you don't know what's going on. Like, and yeah, I don't know. It started getting a little weird beyond that, and I guess what do you guys take on like how it even like advances? Like, because
I want to hear
at a certain
yours
point,
because we actually discussed this a little bit before.
I feel that it suddenly, it starts off with the standard, shooting red guys. It gets into the, player, I don't know if agency is the right word, but basically your control, and they're playing with that, and you're just doing what you're being told. And then it takes this whole other weird cyberpunk angle, where it's basically all about like beyond mind control and just kind of uploading to the hive mind at the end.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know.
I think it takes that turn like after like I feel like you are kind of, it's almost like you're a weird addict in the beginning, like where it's like you keep going back in and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but like the thing tells you, and then it's like get the fuck out of the game, like stop. You don't know what you're meddling with, like stay out of this game. Like it's affecting other shit you don't understand, and then it's like get out, stay out, and it makes you shut down. That's the point, like about midway, where it kind of makes you shut down the game. I feel like when you turn it back on and you go back in, it kind of almost like accepts you back, where it's like, all right, you're back. Well, now if you're gonna do this, you're fucking in it, and now we run you. Like it's like you had your chance. Now fucking we own your brain.
I definitely felt that. Yeah, at the end it. Not even like we own your brain. I mean,
well, it's like I think the shoot yourself in the head thing is kind of almost like you have to disconnect from the physical to upload your consciousness into the hive mind kind of thing.
It's very like it turns into a brain in a jar simulator. I felt where it's like immediately you are dispersed with the physical. Get out of meat space into cyberspace and.
You upload your consciousness.
It kind of became like the Lawnmower Man at the end, basically.
I was getting heavy Lawnmower Man vibes
from
that whole
also
game.
Like when it's like your mind is the computer kind of thing, and you're like trying to, especially when you get to the core, and you're like trying to like upload the core, and it's kind of like, are you uploading the core into your brain, or are you uploading your brain into the core? Like it frames it one way, and then it goes the other way with it, and then it makes you start like repeating phrases to it, like it tells you what to say. And then that becomes the running gag, which we've said around here a whole bunch of times. that nobody who hasn't finished the game knows what the fuck we're talking about. They think it's just like a review. The game actually comes out and says, like, you have to, all right, now that you're in it, you have to spread the game and tell people it's the most innovative shooter you've played in years.
That kind of revealed to me that your friend was already a part of it, like at the beginning. That he was probably in the same boat as you, that he was typing something and then whatever happened.
I forgot about that because the guy you're chatting with, he says it right at the start.
Yeah, and but he also says that he can't get past he can't get into the second level because he doesn't know the password. And you're like, I played it, and then you're just like, oh well, here's what it is. And when you go to tell him like what it is, the game like replaces what you're saying to him, and he gets all pissed off at you. He's like, come on, dude, I want to play. So it's like, either that's really clever of like being like, come on, dude, or like, why would it even bother with that? Like, so I don't know. They just, again, I feel like in art house fashion, they kind of almost cast doubt where it doesn't need to be. whereas it cast doubt in a scenario where they wouldn't have had to do that. That after the fact, you could be like, oh, that he totally was in it, like, and that would have been a cool kind of reveal. But they still cast out that like he could have just maybe he never made it past the first level.
Yeah, this plot is, I believe the term is murky, which like I'm okay with because at the end of the day, I didn't play this game for that. So it's just like as you said before, it's like a neat feature in a game like this.
I would say it was almost a pleasant surprise to me though, like coming from that angle, like at it, because I didn't expect to walk out of it with any real questions. I expected to walk out of it and be like, I ran around and I shoot a bunch of red dudes, and
no
it was
plot.
cool.
I just killing red guys.
And it gave me a lot of it came up with a lot of questions without a lot of answers. Didn't really need either of them, but I didn't feel like it detracted from the game in any way.
It was a entirely positive effect with no real. It didn't take up that much time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of games are starting to do this now, like Battlefield 1, or like tying it into the other podcast for Titanfall, where like you came for the multiplayer, you got a neat little like it's super short, so it doesn't take a lot of time, or you could just ignore it completely, single player, and then move on with your day and play what you actually came here for. It's only positive. Like, and
I'm actually kind of surprised a little bit. Like, I agree. Like, I thought it was I enjoyed the stuff in between levels. There was a couple of times where I was like, all right, enough already. I just want to play the next level. Like, where some of it takes a little bit too long to get through. But for the most part, it's pretty quick. But knowing some of the people that I know that if I put them in front of this game, they'd be like, the fuck? Like, why can't I do the thing with the bullets and the shooting thing? Like,
this is definitely...
Why the fuck do I have to do all this? And especially since you don't unlock like the challenge in infinite mode until you've done it, that's probably like I'd be interested to know how many people on Steam have the achievement for beating the core.
We can check that
because those are the only people who have beaten the core are the people who have infinite mode and challenge mode,
right?
Or whatever, like, and so how many people like tried to get into it and didn't wade through even the very like limited plot and kind of like artistic interaction that they put in place because they got turned off by it.
So,
what's the name of the achievement?
I don't know. It's probably in the ones that you
vamp for me.
So, on the subject of like just the general feel of the plot and the way they present a lot of the story in the game, even down to like the UI, One of Us, that's it, yeah. I would like to see if the developers have done any talks about what their inspirations were for that. Because when I booted this game up, I was not expecting a file commander-esque interface for the main menu.
Yeah, right.
And when I saw that, I was immediately hooked. Because, I mean, like, growing up as somebody who learned how to mess around with computers on, in the DOS era, like, I see this and I go, oh, that's kind of interesting. And, like...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, they've got the game. You can click on it, and it's just, superhot.exe, which is conveniently only 8 characters long. And then there's a bunch of, like, folders you can dive into outside of the main game with, like, extra executables for, like, other weird ASCII art games and little graphical demos and stuff.
How many of you, did you guys play any of those things or look at, like, some of the pictures and stuff?
There's some fucked up shit in some of those things.
Like what?
There was one, I think it was actually supposed to be a quote-unquote trailer for SUPERHOT. And it's super, like, really pixelated, so you can't actually, like, see specifics, but you can see, like, shapes of people and some colors. But for the one that I always remember, that's the trailer, is for the most part gray, but you just see red every other so often. So kind of keeping with the whole vibe. But
I definitely enjoyed. There's a folder dive I went in, fully expecting to find ASCII porn at the end of it, and then it yelled at me for looking for porn in the folder, and I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, no, I really dug that like interface too. Did you guys play Tree Dude?
I opened it. I didn't play it. I got to get back in and
you
try
gotta fire
it.
up Tree Dude. It's like Tree Dude, this is his song. It plays this really like boop 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 boop, and it's like it's almost like a, I don't even know how to describe it, like a rhythm game, but it's not like right in the theme with Superhot. And I only realized this just now trying to explain Tree Dude, is that Tree Dude only moves when you move. So it's like a rhythm game where things are coming down, but like if you don't hit any key, it sits there static. But then when you put in an input, it moves you to like the other side, and you have to avoid the branches that are coming down. But it's not like it's coming down; like they only move down like in chunks as you put in inputs. So each time you hit an input, I just realized that just now that's just like
gotta
super
go
hot.
back now. But I just remembered the one trailer real quick. I pulled up the One of Us achievement, which is to beat the game, is beaten by 76% of
That's
the
really
people.
high.
That's very high.
Yeah.
That's really high.
The thing is, the most of the people I feel like played this game were in it to win it, so to speak. Like this isn't a
It does
game
a
where
pretty good job of drawing you along too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and it's a short game.
it's
I don't
definitely
like
a drip
that-
feed, 2 hours long.
What?
It plays to its advantage.
It's a short game, and it's not an overly challenging game either. Like
No.
it makes you
really.
feel smart.
there was,
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Since it is very kind of rinse and repeat, and as a puzzle, you really just kind of trying to find the right solution. It's not so much the quick twitch, like
Yeah.
pull off the headshot while running thing. It's more like, all right, what order you take down the enemies? Where do you stand at what time? And once you kind of figure that out, it's just doing it. It's not super hard to do it.
Yeah.
it's just super hot.
Oh God.
I would say actually, yeah, like I said earlier, how it was reminding me of Hotline Miami a lot. Hotline Miami is a similar kind of thing where you memorize the level layout. The enemies are almost always in the same spots, or at least they start there.
Although at least
But-
that game is a lot more. There's a lot of quick twitch in that.
Yeah,
where
that's
you
the
do actually
thing
have
is
to pull it off.
You have to be, your timing's got to be perfect in that. Whereas in this, you stop moving, you can just sit there and think about what you got to do next, and you've got
to a point. Yeah.
you've got much more time than a game like Hotline Miami.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
But yeah, that trailer is weird. But all it is like these people play. Actually, you know what? I wonder if I can see.
Yeah, no. See if you can fire up Tree Dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say, getting back
Oh.
into that, like I would like to know, the other thing I'd like to know is how many people bought this game and actually have any like knowledge of where all that stuff comes from. Because back in the day, it used to be you could get like a random floppy from somebody that just had folders full of stuff that were weird applications that would be like, this one just draws a sine wave on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
This one's a fire
I did see
particle
this.
simulator. And
I did see this.
Yeah, you can't like it's just all like these super pixelated. You can't really see, but you
Well,
don't
I
hear
think
it.
it's actually it looks to me like it's actually the Superhot
Game.
web player trailer just put through like a fucking 45 by 45 pixel filter.
This
Yeah.
is, but yeah, and then you see all these people. They're literally just screaming at the top of their lungs, like these are the people who played this wonderful game, and then it says like the whole, like, yeah. So yeah, there's a little shit, and then what's a Tree Dude?
Yeah.
Having this TV up. Is
So
awesome.
the Tree Dude is like an ASCII game. Score 366. There you go.
Is this like the new hidden?
Here we go. His name is
Tree
Tree
Dude,
and his song is Tree Dude. Tree Dude.
I feel like you've played this a few times.
A couple. I can't remember what my. Yeah. See, it's an ASCII game where you have to go. Each time you hit, it advances the tree, and so if you advance the tree with a branch above you and you don't go to the other side, you die. And it seems real simple, but once you kind of get in the mode of it, like it's real easy to like get yourself jacked. Like whoever's playing this is really good at it.
Well,
But you
did
could
get a
totally
level
you could totally
366.
just like sit here, and like there is like a timer, but you have time to like be like, oh wait, hold on, stop, and then like go to the other side, and even still you will lose at some point. But yeah, Tree Dude.
I definitely like how they just had a whole bunch of just hidden stuff in the menu. Like, this is actually some dude's computer that you're just at, and he's just got random shit on it.
I just noticed too that on most of these little mini text-based applications, it's always the name of the application, like the title, and then by someone.
somebody.
And I think they're almost all by Piotr, who was the lead designer of SUPERHOT.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's this. Yeah, I do like how there's a little.
Oh
There's,
shit.
oh, we want to finish.
Yeah. Let's see where he's
Let's
at.
see. Well, he gets
He-
the
there's no way.
366.
There's no way he's gonna get much farther. He's running out of time. Because eventually you have to
This
keep
makes for a
going.
great podcast right now.
But it's great because it's like as it's text based and it like blasts all the text each time he chops. It just like shoots at the other side. Oh.
Dead dude. Oh, jeez, that's dark. This game is definitely like the whole what's the tagline? Mind is software, bodies are disposable. This game, like, it goes all out into that. Like, it's all just like technology is the future. Become one of us.
Yeah, they never really explain what's up with the red dudes. Like if the red dudes are representing of like other players, or if they're other,
feel
or
like
if
they're-
they're like AI characters, or like bots controlled by the AI,
What I
or
thought,
programs trying to get you out of the game.
what I
Like-
was thinking was that it's sort of a visual abstraction of something happening in real life somewhere else. I thought of the movie Toys, where it's like a bunch of kids sitting there playing video games, but they're actually piloting drones and
Right.
bombing the Middle East.
Ender's Game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like Ender's Game. So I think that that's why at the conclusion you upload yourself up to it, because like you're the greatest, and it's just you're another drone now in this basically abstraction of taking out people for whatever particular reason. So
I guess it's just like it's just making itself stronger. I got the impression that the red guys were not part of whatever the pyramid hive mind thing was.
No.
I feel like they were actually defensive, preventing you from getting that from some other
Right.
force. But what?
And so like there's some the fact that it's like they're trying to prevent you. They're trying to like stop you from getting to that point. And so it's like if SUPERHOT is like the AI that's at like the center of this thing, it doesn't want you to be like SUPERHOT. Like they reference in like those other files and like kind of the thing. SUPERHOT is like some kind of like crazy AI.
yeah.
It gets referenced a couple times. They don't say what it does or what it's capable of or what it's running, but it almost begs the question of like, what the hell are those things? Like,
Yeah.
is it affecting something else? Because I had that same thought too. Is like, when you're shooting the red dudes, are you actually like killing people somewhere else, like through like controlling something else that's doing it? And if so, how is that an abstraction, and what are you actually controlling? And then when you start thinking about that, it starts to not make any sense when they introduce the body switching mechanic.
yeah, that's true.
So when you can jump into the other, so it only really makes sense when through the lens of like a computer program of like when you take over their other, like the other bot or the other program, like it's kind of like that hacker like invasion of the other program to take it over, because it doesn't make any sense if like they're real people. Like how do you take over their perspective?
I get the feeling that it is all just a program, and you're just like slowly making your way towards.
Which I did
whatever
think
core
the
is.
jumping into the other bodies mechanic was cool. I also thought it was like hyper OP. Like once you get it,
Oh, yeah.
like it's almost there's nothing in the game that you can't.
Well, I
do.
think at that point the game was trying to make you OP. Like you were getting to the point of like near God in this program, and like
It felt like there was no other way they could up the ante. You know,
also
it was
true.
like
Yeah.
it got to the point where when you can start doing this in the game, you're already so good with all the guns and the melee weapons and everything else. It's like, how do we make this go even further, or make the puzzles even more complicated? And that was like, I feel the only next step they could take.
Yeah, I don't know what else they could have done with it, but if you're trying to like put together like the plot, it has certain implications of like it could be like a mechanic that just changes what it all means, and it could just be this is a game. There's no plot, it's just killing red dudes.
I was gonna say at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
just about killing red dudes. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah. I mean,
Except it doesn't.
it's
No.
totally.
Well, I
not-
mean, it just sparked a conversation that we could go
for
on and around
quite a while.
about.
I actually, this is one game that surprisingly I haven't ever actually like Googled to see what other people have to say about. I never really thought to, but I mean,
I'm pretty sure most everyone else just has to say that it's the most innovative shooter they've played in years.
Right
yeah, that's pretty much the general.
now, as far as like no
Spectrum.
plot and just killing red dudes, SUPERHOT VR.
Okay, yeah, we can. tackle
SUPERHOT
that.
VR. So this game was right for it, and people were clamoring for it. Like even when it came out, it was like, "Ooh, could you imagine this in VR?" Like it was
you-
one of
I
those
was
like
one of those
"Durr."
people. Yeah.
and yeah. So they put it out like 3 days ago or whatever. Like not even, and
It's awesome.
got an Oculus Touch out front and messing around with it, and it's literally like as limited as this plot is in SuperHot, it's gone in SuperHot VR. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the game starts with no menu, no DOS interface, no chatting with another dude, no nothing. You're in a white room. There's a gun floating in the air in front of you. The only thing you can do is reach out and grab it, and the second you touch the gun, enemies spawn all around you, and you have to fight them off.
And that's how each
And
level
then-
starts.
And that's how each level starts. It's just you in like an empty room with like some weapons like handy, and then once you touch one, shit just jumps off, and that's
It is a cool, like, just like, you're in it now.
I think
Like,
that's just good VR design. That's
I agree.
yeah.
Like just dropping you in. Like
There-
I don't like
Well, 'cause
like
I mean, all right. So I haven't played it yet, but I've been watching everybody else play for the last couple days.
Tom just played it for like an hour and a half earlier.
It's like it's a game. It's like the. No, sorry, you go.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, like with the touch control. I mean, in VR, if anyone's done a VR experience, they know the most fun you can have is just like picking things up and then like throwing them and stuff. And so the first thing this does when you boot it up is exactly that. It gives you exactly what you want,
Yep.
versus making you dig through a menu for it. And
But it was like almost shocking. Like when I first fired it up, I like turned it on, and I'm like, "The fuck's going on? Like, has it started yet? What's happening? Is it broken? Like, there's a thing just floating here." And then like I touched it, and then everything, like the world just like spawns around you. Like, oh, all right. And I just started blasting. Like, I think I started it at like 6:58 before a 7 o'clock meeting. And
You're like,
within
"No."
within 5 minutes, I had already beaten like 5 or 6 levels, and then I put it down. And like, so there, yeah, it just cut out all the story, all the in and out, all the. Every once in a while, it makes you take off the headset,
There
which
is
is
a
kind of weird, and
story,
you,
yeah.
you take it off, and you're in this weird kind of
You are in
way
VR
more
world.
realistic version of the real world than there is in the SuperHot like desktop version. It's a way more realistic version of like, you know, little carts and discs and like CRT monitors like all around you. And you have to go back in. You actually have to pull a big VR headset back down over your head,
You
and
have to
then
put a new disc,
put a new
flop it
disc
in,
in, and
yeah.
that loads the next game. But that's really.
Did you beat
But
it?
again, I didn't play through the whole thing
Yeah.
in VR.
There,
so,
the story is there, and it's actually funny how you were talking about. I wasn't gonna say it, but since we're on the VR game now, when you were, was it you who were saying like, do you upload the pyramid to you, or are you into it? The very last like group, like, because every single time you take the headset off, the computers like say a message to you. So instead of like going into that chat room, this time around the computer monitors are just like you're like kind of leading you through it and just messages. And at the very end, there's one last disc, and it literally says SuperHot on it. And instead of putting it in the computer, you actually put it in your head. What that means, I have no idea, because like you don't have the headset on yet.
it means it's delicious.
Like it literally like it's just like there's like usually like a little image, just like saying like how you put it into the computer, just showing you for VR sake. And this one, it's just like it's just a picture of your head, and it just does this, and then you're like, okay, and it just loads the last part. So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned.
art house cinema.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, I mean
That
yeah,
one gets kind of weird, and then at the end, like the little, the little pyramid things that like
Yeah.
move to the next one. It's just like open your door, and you walk to the door, and one of those things comes to you in real life, and it's just a gun, and then you shoot yourself in the head, and that's how the game ends.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, and that's kind of what you have to do to yourself in the original.
It's
one,
literally
is
the
you have to
original-
like creep up on yourself in VR and like
Yeah.
shoot yourself.
I feel like the reason this one's more realistic outside is because in that game you never take the VR off, whereas this one you literally the helmet
Yeah, you
comes
have to
off.
pull it up and off. But it was interesting the scenarios they did in VR and the way they handled locomotion, and by the sense that they didn't. They basically just they route you to a point in space that you can move around about room scale level, like a small room scale level where you can like duck behind things that you're right in front of. But it doesn't move you along until you've killed all the threats that are there, and then like this little black tetrahedron pops up out of the void. And when that happens, you basically drop whatever you have or whatever, and it kind of blinks you onto the next space, and it starts from there. And the levels are basically progressions of those. It's like 3 or 4 or 10 of those things like strung together.
Mhm.
Usually not many. Each one of those little things usually only takes like a few seconds. But to like clear the level, you have to do them all in succession. So you have to like start up, grab the axe, kill the 2 guys in the airport, and like so there's one of them missions is called hijack, and it's like it starts you in like an airplane cockpit where you grab like and then you kill like the 2 people in the thing, and then the little thing pops up and it warps you out, and then there's like 3 people in the little galley, and you're kind of fighting your way through a virtual airplane almost. And the first 3 or 4 segments of that are really fucking easy, and then the 5th one is really hard. So I had to do. So it's kind of annoying that it uses old school style since they're all really quick. They're just like, fuck it, do them all again. And so if you want to do the 5th part that's hard, you have to do all the rest of it up to that point. And the other game, the original version, is kind of like that anyway. Like if you die on
It's
the last
built
guy,
in like
you still
that,
have to play
yeah.
the whole level over again. So they kind of stuck to that same thing. So instead of running down the hallway in the airplane and shooting the things, you kind of that's how you move through the level. You still have to kill the same guys in the same ways.
It did lead to interesting scenarios. I remember in particular, I want to say it was like the 6th or 7th where like it was one of the first times they give you the double barrel shotgun. And like I was just so done with it by like the 18th time I'd gone through it. Like that the first section, like I would kill everybody with like the double barrel, you get 2 shots. I would able to just like not even looking, I was just like frustratedly just like boom, 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 like, and just like to move on to the next part, like you were just so rote and just being a killing machine. You like didn't even notice, you're just like death blossoming everything without even giving a damn. Which I feel like is kind of to the game's credit.
Well, I mean, it's cool. Like you can do some really cool stuff with it, and the interactions are ripe for VR. Like it in that it works with the mouse and keyboard. Like it really works when you can actually like use your hands in that. And you can have. Tom was playing earlier, and I'd done some of these levels. He had a hammer in his left hand and a pistol in his right hand, and he's shooting people, and he's knocking bullets out of the air with the hammer in his other hand while he's shooting people. And like that's just shit that's not even possible to even think about in a first-person game, unless you're making it automatic or something.
This was a game that I still even now, like when I first played it, it was meant for VR. And like they just actually they toned it down just to get a release.
Now, one thing I do
first.
find is a little annoying because the game only moves when you move. In VR, I don't know. You've probably found the same thing. It's like sometimes there's like a dude or something that's like just out of reach,
and you're just like,
and you got to sit there and kind of like put up your dukes and just make some motions to make time move. Because if you just stand there, like it won't come. And you're just like, come on, get over here, come on. And you gotta like,
I think it was watching you play it. It took me a minute to work out. I think it was you. Somebody was just they just stand around and just like swivel their wrist
and just
swing their hand around just to make time continue.
Yep.
And it took me a few watches to figure out what the hell you were doing in the first place. I'm like, man, you got like carpal tunnel or something? Like, what are you doing?
No, I'm just like, come on, wind in time.
Yeah,
Like, come on, keep it going, keep coming. You're too far away. I want to punch you in the nuts.
that actually is that's funny. I had like forgotten about that, but it totally did.
I think everybody has. I watched Tom punch somebody in the nuts earlier.
Now you're just.
And he's like, no, that's how you kill that guy. You punch him in the nuts.
Do you remember the business room one?
I didn't play all of them in VR yet.
There's one where like the dude's like around a corner and on a door, and he like kind of would get glitched on the door, so he would like get pushed back, run a little bit forward, and get pushed back, and I'm just sitting there like, come on, asshole, let's go. Like I want. I'd like shove that out of my head.
Yeah, like the sword and like the hammer and pans and like being able to block bullets out of the air with the objects is super satisfying.
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah.
Or like when you had the knife, when you could actually like ding, like and it would cut the bullet in half. And like
or just like even just like dual wielding them. Like there's one level like real early on where it's like you're on a bridge and there's 4 dudes coming at you and they all have knives and like real quick you have to like punch one on the one side, punch one on the other side, and both of their knives fly up in the air, and you can catch them both, and like with both, without even looking, you can just like swipe down to either side and kill both of them, and then throw both knives like out past them and kill the dudes behind them, and like kill 4 dudes like dual wielding knives in like a split second, and that's kind of fucking awesome.
This game is a John Wick simulator.
Sounds like a John Woo simulator.
Yeah.
Same thing. Does the VR version offer a replay mode you can watch later?
No,
I don't think so.
That's completely gone.
That should definitely be a thing. Not like to watch it in VR, but like if you could do like a third-person director view to see what the hell you were doing.
Yeah. So the coolest thing, and this is kind of getting off the topic of SUPERHOT, but I guess it's in answering the question, and it's something that I noticed a while back, and I sent a message to Owlchemy Labs, and I was kind of hoping that I'd hear back from them. Because I saw these guys out at Unite, but they've been working on like a mixed reality solution for just this thing for like for recording people playing VR. There's a lot of people that are compositing these things for like YouTube videos where they're standing in front of a green screen. And
I've seen it.
so
for,
you see them
like,
standing there.
For Fantastic Contraption, they do this for all their advertisements.
Right. Yeah. So in Owlchemy Labs, the guys who did Job Simulator and some of the other stuff, they've been working on this for a long time, trying to get it right. And the trick of this is like it's easy to like send it out behind it, but what people don't realize, and it's obvious as a developer, is you can't just take what's on screen and do that. Like you need support from the developer to put a virtual camera in the scene that's offset to where you're looking at the person room scale.
Right.
So you can see the virtual room with enough space between you and them in it. And then also how do you then like, if there's like a desk in the virtual world between that camera and the person, how do you occlude it or whatever? And usually the answer is they don't. They just show it like higher up and they don't show like the low occlusion stuff because it's all projected behind them like a green screen. But these guys have figured out a way to do like mixed reality recording like that works really well and like without perfect lighting and whatnot, where you can, you know, as long as it's obviously you need developer support, but as long as it's in the game, you can have that virtual camera running and you can have like a green screen and a lighting thing and like a camera in your room that like lines up with that virtual camera and it can composite those things and it knows like what things are virtually in front of where the person would be and it puts it over them. So if you're seeing somebody playing like Job Simulator, like they duck down and you see them go behind the counter and then like come back up with their stuff and whatnot.
Pretty sweet, yeah.
And yeah, it would be, and if you could do that in Superhot, it'd be dope because you'd be seeing the person like standing there with the thing, and you see him like red dudes like coming at him, and you'd be like chopping them and throwing the knives and like blasting everybody. Like that'd be super cool to see that, you know.
Maybe
so
one day.
yeah, I mean, I applied to because they opened up like we're looking for developers to be like beta test this mixed reality thing, and I was like, hey, I'm Buffalo Game Space, we have a green
totally
screen, we've got
do it.
cameras, we do VR shit, like come on.
Please.
But I haven't heard back from them. But anyway, yeah, right for VR, and they added a lot of stuff in VR that wasn't in like the base.
Some
one.
new weapons.
Lots of shurikens everywhere.
I hated those things because I could never throw them right. Like
Throwing is a little harder than it would seem because when time slows, like when you go to throw something and you let go, it just kind of it sits there, and you have to like do a follow through and be like, is it gonna hit him? Like, it doesn't,
Well,
you don't get that immediate feedback of like throwing a football, you know.
Well, like I also discovered underhand is the way to go when it comes to throwing in that. Like if you throw over, it doesn't quite like release on the trigger is like a second after it leaves your hand in the game. So like I just kept throwing high just constantly, whereas if you kind of just go under.
I don't know. I didn't really have that experience.
Yeah.
It seemed like it worked both ways for me. Like I said, I was able to throw them underhand like knives and shit, but also like the shurikens, like throwing, or even like sidearm. Like I was sidearming some of the ninja stars. They work pretty good, just like a frisbee, just like, and then it still goes. I think the game must just track like change over time, just like that's, and when you let go, it just whatever the previous frames were, it calculates a vector. But yeah, I mean, it works really well. The only thing about the shurikens is they break like super. Like you can't block anything with them, or you can't.
No,
like,
it's
they just break.
They're like a
instantly.
bottle,
Yeah.
or like all the other.
Made out
I
of
think
glass.
the
like
only
fucking
things
Snow
that-
Crash.
The only things that actually like can take damage are if it's made out of metal, which you'd think the shurikens would. But like the knives,
The baseball bats are like really fucking not durable at all. No, you
those
can hit, you
things
can hit
like
like
one
two
or
people
twos,
with them
yeah.
and then they break to pieces.
which is weird because in the main game you could go to work with that
They
thing.
still broke.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
it took a
broke,
couple
but
hits.
you could get at
But
least
you
like
could,
4 or
well,
5.
you could also get that last little just throw the handle at somebody.
Yeah, there was that the VR game was. I loved that. I loved that so much. That was
Yeah, I mean-
exactly what I wanted from a Superhot VR game.
You know, it was really cool, but also just even like seeing it in 3D, like all the hand interaction obviously is great, and the way that it uses the touch controllers, because it feels really good to grip things with the touch controllers with that middle finger button. Feels really good. You're just grabbing stuff, and since it leaves it free to use your pistol as well, you can shoot stuff or just grab things and throw things.
Yeah.
It all feels really good. But just being able to see the depth, like with the like, there's a level that starts with there's an enemy just standing right in front of you, and the level just says like hit him. It's just like over him. It's like,
Do it.
okay, you got nothing. You punch him, and then it shows him like he starts breaking and falling backwards out of a helicopter, and you're like in a helicopter, and there's like dudes like swarming down below, and you start like throwing and shooting down at them, and then it warps you down, and you still see the guy is still coming down like after you warp, and then it warps to another spot, and he's still coming like, and you see that all from like different angles with like full depth, that like this whole like fight played out like before that dude like ever hit the ground from like the initial punch.
Huh.
And like this is like a really cool idea for like little situations they put together.
I feel like in the VR they definitely crafted. I feel like they could craft those situations a little better because now they can actually control where you stand and what you're kind of seeing.
So they could make it a little more cinematic.
Exactly.
saying?
Whereas
Yeah,
in-
there was a couple in their main game where they start you off where you're kicking somebody through a window or something.
But
Yeah.
that was it. Like after that,
Then
it
after
was
that, it's
because they
goes
don't
hand.
know where you're going in the level. Whereas in this, they could be like, okay, there was for the most part, there was never really anybody behind you. Like it started you and like maybe a peripheral, but it was like this is where they were.
Yeah, for the most part.
Except like the only time I remember is the plane. There was like that one person who would kind of come in.
Yeah,
But-
there's some times where since you can't move around, there was some times where you kill like a bunch of people and it's like,
Just
where's
like
the
a
little
bullet would go
tetrahedron?
through, you
There's
know,
somebody
like-
there's somebody left. Where are you?
Yeah.
You start looking all around, paranoid.
But for the just so like everything's kind of channeled. They know exactly where you're going to be standing, and for the most part, what you're seeing. So
That's interesting because I know there was a big concern when VR initially started really taking off. Is how are we going to control what the viewer looks at? It's going to ruin story. It's going to break everything.
By just
Whereas
taking out
when you're playing
movement.
on a desktop, you've got your monitor and that's what they look at. So you've got a frame. So it's odd to me that the VR version of SUPERHOT has more cinematic potential.
Well,
From
they
your
just-
perspective, at least, from the desktop version.
Well, I mean, they can more easily craft like director of photography style. Like this is what like your view is going to be because you got to be standing
Right.
there. Doesn't mean you're looking at the exact direction that they want you to, but your view is going to be from a certain point. Where in the first person running around game, like they could only control that so much,
Right.
Because you could run around and jump off stuff.
Mhm.
But also, they didn't really do it, and I don't know if they changed this farther in the VR game, because like I said, I didn't do it all. I was actually surprised by some of the things they did in the standalone game where things were moving around you, like notably the parking lot level where it starts with the car coming at you.
oh yeah,
And you have to jump the car.
it's at you.
Yeah,
Like-
it comes at you. You have to jump it. You can't there's not enough time to get out of the way or anything. You have to jump over the car. Or like the subway level where you start on top of the subway and you have to
Yeah.
run and jump down before like it goes into the tunnel. And there's like 3 dudes right there, and you have to like warp into one of them and get lucky.
I
Yeah.
feel it's weird to think just because of the fact that because of the concept that you were actually in control, but so much more skill based. Like you felt like more of the badass in the VR version because you were physically you yourself was doing it, whereas opposed
yeah.
to what I mean, because that's what the game was supposed to be, was a dude in VR doing
Right.
all this.
I mean, and just the sheer level of different experience of looking at a little screen and clicking a button and seeing an animated punch go out, or standing in the environment with full 360, full depth, and full hand tracking, and like seeing the guy's face like right next to your face and punching it with your own motion, and then grabbing his knife out of the air and throwing it at somebody else with your other hand. That's a whole nother level of something.
There were definitely times where I would literally just sit there and like look at the bad guy standing next to me and like just be like, "How you doing, man?"
Watched Tom play the other day, and he
And
tried
then
to
just
shake somebody's hand.
There was so much more like you.
How you doing?
You would always feel like a benevolent god. Like you're just there, and you're like, hold on, I'll kill you in a second. let me do this real quick. I'm just looking at the world. Okay, and you just like backhand them. Oh man, that VR is like they did a hell of a job with it.
Is it the most innovative VR shooter you've played in years?
Well, since I've only played like 3, yes. So
Yeah, it's very different than a lot of the other ones. But
they definitely like chiseled away all the extra stuff
Mhm.
and just made a VR shooter. And
Trim the fat.
to me,
on this
it's
product. Yeah, it's
to me that's exactly
well, I think
what
it
they
showcases
needed.
kind of what we started talking about was how the game sets itself up where you could have almost infinite little puzzles in that game. And with the main story, they cut it down to like a really small number of like these are the best ones. Like these are our hand selected best ones like to play in a certain order. And they used that experience and skill and whatever they learned from making the single player desktop version and applied it to VR where it's like everything's like a standalone like these are the things you should do, and they kind of build on each other in difficulty and complexity. And,
They definitely, oh man, they did a hell of a job with it. I will pretty much end on that unless you guys got anything else to add.
I would like to add that I still need to play this, so I'm pretty excited to play the
Yeah,
VR
well,
version.
you should.
Holy
sounds
shit!
cool.
It's fun. It's not like that. Like the game where like you kind of feel emotionally exhausted afterwards. You're just like afterwards. You're like that was cool. Like that was just a neat experience.
Because it's not like playing Space Pirate Trainer or
No.
whatever. Like it's not like a quick twitch, like dive out of the way and throw your hands up all over. It's like it it retains that puzzle. It's really like a VR puzzle now. It's like how do you do this thing, and in what order do you take these guys down, but using these new tools at your disposal, like your actual two hands.
Yep. Well, on that note, we will now draw the next game. So I don't know, did either of you listen? I know we should just explain anyway. So what we do is we got the Google Doc where all the possibilities are. And you see how each one's got a number. So I go over to this random number generator and it out a number, and then we see which one it is. Now, the caveat is there can be one veto. Like if we play a game, maybe not necessarily in this one, where it's maybe too similar or we're not really feeling, you can veto it. But that means the next game you have to stick with.
All right.
All right? So, without further ado, hit
Wheel of
enter.
morality. Turn.
numbers properly.
Yeah. It's 2 through 36. If it's going to go with me.
See, if it's a random number generator, that could be random.
Yeah. Well,
You don't know.
32. I'm literally using the same one on here. For some reason, it works better on mobile. And 32 is inside.
Ooh, all right.
I'm okay with this. What about you?
I heard that it was really good, but
It
I don't know
looks
anything about
art-wise,
it,
it's actually pretty kind of similar. Like nobody has faces, and it's kind of like polygonal in a sense, but it's a 2D.
The official
platform.
thread on NeoGAF for this game is Limbo's Big Brother, which I found very amusing.
I can
so
totally see
I
that.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be an interesting.
Are we
pick.
good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm game for this. It gives me an excuse to finally play it. That's what Game Club's about.
Has a drastically different color scheme than SUPERHOT. I'm pretty excited.
Much more
about it.
drab.
It's gray and black and red. Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
So we agreed. You okay with this?
All right, we'll talk about inside.
Inside it is whenever we do this podcast next time. Hopefully next month. Bye-bye now.
Tree dude, this is his song.